All right. Are you able to see my screen, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank
Yes, we
you.
can.
Okay. Well, welcome to our Scrum Master certification prep course. Now, to start, a little bit about me. Some of you may know me from the product management classes that I've been teaching and teaching one right now as well at Portnow Online. But for the rest of you, I'm a senior product manager at First American Financial Corporation. It's one of the biggest names in the real estate industry in the United States and Canada. Overall, I have over 15 years experience in product management in different fields. Well, real estate is where I work right now, but at Ernst & Young, I worked on health and HR applications. Then I also worked at Silicon Valley Bank. And I also worked in automotive resales industry at ADESA and OpenLane. I graduated from Santa Clara University, where I studied for computer engineering. And I worked in software and at some point transitioned to a product manager, which I have been doing for the last 15 years. I am Safe Agile certified and I'm Scrum certified. And my hobbies, I really enjoy hiking, spending time with the family, and I love puzzles like Sudoku or Wordle. That's just things that I like to do in non-work related time. Now let's talk about this course. So what are we trying to teach here? People who complete this course, well, they will understand what Scrum is. They will be confident in how Scrum framework works, how it can be applied in real life. We'll be teaching you real practical tools for the Scrum Master role within the Scrum network. We'll specifically focus on the skills and knowledge needed to pass the professional Scrum Master exam, PSM. And it'll all be based on, real world experiences, real world coaching, facilitation, and problem solving examples. This class is going to meet Mondays and Wednesdays at 6 p.m. just like today. And each session is going to be 2 hours, give or take. So my sessions usually tend to go a little bit longer, so maybe 2 to 2:30 is an accurate description. Any questions on this? Okay.
How many
Yeah, please go
classes
ahead.
in total?
I'm sorry, can you say that again, please?
Sorry, how many classes are there in total?
There's going to be 5 sessions in this course.
Okay.
I was just jumping into the course outline. So session 1 is today. We're just going to talk about the contents of the class, what the test looks like, and some basic fundamentals about Scrum. Session 2, we're going to do a deep dive into the different Scrum roles and responsibilities of those roles. In session 3, we'll go over the events that make up the Scrum process. And session 4 will cover Scrum artifacts and commitments, such as the definition of done, product backlog, sprint backlog. We'll talk about these types of things. And then session 5 is going to be all going over a real test questions, and review. But just because I have session 5 dedicated to questions and review, that does not mean that we're not going to look at different questions and situations that can be on the test in the other sessions. We're definitely going to be doing that as well. Just session 5 is explicitly dedicated to just that. Any questions on this? Okay. Now let's talk about the exam itself. The PXM exam is 60 minutes long. It consists of 80 questions. 85% is a passing score. The questions on the test are going to be either multiple choice, select A, B, C, or D option type questions, multiple answer, where more than one option could be correct, just A or maybe A and B or maybe B and D. Or true false type questions where you just select one of the two possibilities. The questions are intentionally worded to test comprehension, not memorizations. So the wording can be a little bit tricky. And pretty much bulk of the test is based on the Scrum guide. Now, before you ask, what is a Scrum guide? Scrum guide is published by Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland. These two people are essentially the fathers of Scrum. At this point, there have been the 6 revisions to this document. And of course, our studies are going to be based on the latest revision. Questions on this?
Yes.
All right. Now, how is the class going to be? I'd love when my students participate in the class. Definitely, please feel free to ask questions anytime. I'll definitely always find time to answer them. So hopefully our class is going to have a lot of discussions. Definitely we'll have activities that will be done together as a whole class or perhaps in groups. Yeah, please feel free to ask questions anytime. We're not gonna focus on, memorize and pass kind of tricks that, don't really teach you anything, but just how to pass the test. No, I really want this course to be helpful in real life and not just focus on test tricks. So what I'm trying to do here is to build understanding of what it's like to be a Scrum Master and to teach strategies and approaches that can be applied in real world if you do decide to become a Scrum Master. Any questions, any comments on this? All right, well, that pretty much covers the class curriculum and the way I'd like this class to conduct itself. And well, let's talk about some of the basic ideas and foundations of Scrum. So before we go into Scrum itself, some words need to be said about the software development cycle in general. Now, what is SDLC, or software development lifecycle? Well, it's a structured process that teams and companies use to design, develop, test, deploy, and maintain software products. SDLC can be broken down in several stages. We start at planning, where the project scope, objectives, and resources are defined. This is also the stage where teams try to identify potential risks and feasibility of completing the work, whether it's technical feasibility, financial, does the company have enough money to pay to get this work done, and operational, do we have the necessary infrastructure to support this product? Once planning stage is complete, requirement analysis happens. This is where the team, business and product leaders gather and document functional and non-functional requirements from stakeholders and customers about the product that they're going to build. This is where documents like PRD, product requirements document, is created. This is also where initial skeletons for user stories are written. And Once this stage is complete, we move on to design. And when I talk about design, it's not only the graphic design, UI, but it's also designing the data models that are going to be used in the product and designing the system architecture that's needed to get the product up and running. So yes, there is going to be work with the design team to develop the front end, but also with an architecture team and the database team to make sure that the back end is all lined up and ready to go as well. Once design is complete, we go into development. This is where engineers write and integrate the actual code based on the design specifications. And then we hit testing, where the product requirements are verified and tested and make sure that the code that was written during development aligns with those requirements and specifications and functions correctly. This stage may include unit integration, regression, and user acceptance testing. Considering that a lot of you have taken classes at Portnoy School, I'm sure I don't have to do a deep dive on the kinds of testing that exist out there and what happens in the testing stage. And then we deploy. We release the product that we built to productions, put it out there, and we move on to maintenance. Once the product is live, we make sure that the bugs are fixed, that the performance of the application are solid, improve it if needed, and we release updates based on the feedback that we get back from our stakeholders, from our customers. And this is the stage in which iteration, the evolution of the product actually takes place. Now, there are two common approaches, frameworks to perform software development. There is the traditional waterfall approach, which is very linear. It follows every stage of the development lifecycle in sequence, and one phase must be completed before the next one can begin. And then there is the agile approach. There are definitely several frameworks that can fit under that agile moniker. But the main difference between waterfall and agile is that agile is iterative and incremental. It emphasizes collaboration and continuous delivery. With waterfall, essentially you build everything at once. There is no interaction with the customer, no testing until we get to the testing stage, almost at the end of the life cycle. Where with Agile, we focus on incremental development. So we build our minimum viable product, a small set of features that our clients need the most in order to perform the tasks that they need to perform. We test as soon as that minimum list of features is delivered. We gather user feedback, and then we improve and quickly deliver either fixes to the features that were already out there or additional features that are really needed for our customer. We get a more cohesive product that provides more for more people. And we keep on iterating and improving while the product is around. So does this mean that waterfall is not really useful anywhere at all, that it's gone the way of the past? The answer is not quite as simple. It's kind of a yes and no type answer because there are some pros and cons in both systems, and there are still some industries and areas where waterfall makes sense over agile. So let's start with the waterfall. For waterfall process has very clear structure and documentation. So if you're in a heavily regulated industry, for example, health or finance, where there is a lot of regulations, a lot of documentation is needed to be able to proceed with your product, and the requirements are stable, then it makes sense to stick with waterfall because uh, the type of processes that happen in these heavily regulated industries lend themselves to a waterfall type approach. Now, the problems with the waterfall approach is, it's inflexible to changes once development starts. The user issues or bugs are discovered very late, and there is a high risk that, what the product team envisioned, that the user wants to have built, does not actually match what the users really want. And because we are trying to deliver a more or less complete product, it really takes a long time before even a minimum value is delivered to our user. Now, Agile is very capable of handling the problems that arise with waterfall. Agile processes, because we deliver in small pieces, not everything at once, they are very flexible. They respond quickly to change. Once again, because we deliver in small pieces and it allows us to engage users early, even when just the minimum part of the product has been delivered, and we are able to receive user feedback and then align what we're going to work on next and make changes to what we already delivered based on that very early in the process. So this risk of misalignment with what users really want is much lower. Because we are able to deliver features in pieces, we don't have to wait until, every planned feature for our product is completed, but we can deliver value in smaller chunks to our customers faster. Agile processes enable strong collaboration across teams. We do not follow the SDLC steps as rigidly. Many different things can happen at the same time. Early development can start at the same time as the design is still going, and while we are still writing out some requirements and the user stories. So all teams work together all the time, and there is a much better understanding between teams who's responsible for what and what is the common goal that we're trying to get to. And if there is a change in the market and our product is no longer relevant or needs some urgent new features to stay relevant, then Agile approach makes it much easier for teams and companies to change direction and start developing what's required now versus what was required back then. But of course, you cannot have all positive. There are some sides to agile processes as well. Without having strong leadership, especially amongst the product team, it can feel chaotic. Agile processes do require very disciplined communication. People need to stay in touch and be aware of what's going on around them, letting other teams know about any issues or any problems that a team may have hit or any changes that they need to urgently do. because everybody's working on their part at the same time. And if a lot of documentation is required and the specifications of the product don't really change that much, then it may create a lot of unnecessary noise. And the documentation with agile processes tends to be kind of all over the place, spread in different user stories. And sometimes there are situations where it's even in the heads of the people who work on a particular feature or a particular product. It's a, a real life story that I tell in my product class, but it applies here as well. I have been working on a product where the previous product manager and also the lead developer, they have both left the company, and I have inherited that product, and the team that I was working with on it, they had very little knowledge of how the product worked, and there was very little documentation that was left by the previous product manager. So we had to spend almost 2 months where we had to kind of reverse engineer and discover all the details about how the product worked and how everything was lined up before we had a full understanding of what's going on with that product. Now, any questions about, the software development lifecycle, waterfall versus agile, the topics that I just went through? All right. So let's do a deeper dive into agile. As I said before, waterfall has mostly gone into the history books at this point. There are very few situations where partial waterfall approach is still used, but it's always used, at least in my experience, even in heavily regulated industries such as finance, in combination with agile, because agile's ability to quickly respond to change and to pivot based on new directions is invaluable. So even for those situations where some waterfall practices are very useful, the companies usually adopt a combination of both agile and waterfall. But agile is really, really the de facto way of working on software nowadays. So let's do a deeper dive into the different agile frameworks that exist out there. So there are several main ones that can be described as standing out. Kanban is one very popular practice. It's a visual approach to agile. Teams use online Kanban boards to represent where certain tasks are in their development process. Haven't started, in progress, being tested, completed, for example. XP, or extreme programming, which is an approach that focuses on delivering software through frequent and continuous feedback, collaboration, adaptation, and transparency. It emphasizes a close working relationship between the dev team, the customer, and stakeholders to make sure that the developer development is rapid, iterative, and changes are deployed quickly. Now, another popular approach to Agile is TDD, or test-driven development, which once again, with a lot of you being former Portnoy students, I'm sure I don't have to tell you a lot about. It's kind of an extended version of extreme programming, but it's a practice for developing code that is simple, maintainable, and well tested. Developer should write implementation code only if there is a test case present that's going to test that it works. It's a method in which you write your automation tests or regression tests before actual development process starts, before actual coding begins. Now, you may notice that one approach, specifically the one that this class is about, is missing from this slide. Scrum. What about Scrum? So is Scrum agile? Well, it definitely is, but Scrum actually predates agile. Scrum's origins trace back to 1986 when Hirotaka Takeuchi and Ikujiro Nonaka published the new product development game article in the Harvard Business Review. They spent quite a lot of time studying teams at manufacturing companies in Japan, such as Honda, Canon, or Fuji. And based on what they learned following the successful teams at those companies, they wrote about a new approach to product development that they adapted based on what they learned at these manufacturing companies. In the United States, Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland were the two people who were extremely interested in this approach. The first full implementation of Scrum occurred at the Easel Corporation in 1993. And then at the 1995 conference with an unpronounceable name, it was a computer research conference. Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland formalized Scrum and presented their framework to the world. Now, Agile Manifesto and the whole Agile approach was developed and made public in 2001. But Scrum really fits Agile well. One can say that Scrum was Agile before Agile was around. Any questions, any comments? And yeah, please feel free to raise hands and ask questions anytime. I really welcome questions about anything and everything. Thanks. So let's talk a little bit more about Scrum. What is Scrum? So Scrum is a really lightweight type of framework. That means it does not have very rigid, tough rules that must be followed. It easily adapts to the company's processes and industry approaches. And really, it's a way to get work done as a team, small pieces at a time. Now, where does the name Scrum come from? It actually comes from rugby. It's a formation in rugby where all the players from a team get together to try to win the control of the ball from the other team. So it's an image that kind of stayed with the whole idea of Scrum from the early days when it was developed based on manufacturing insights in Japan. And it really, this term kind of embodies the collaboration that makes Scrum work. Scrum helps people, teams, and organizations generate value through adaptive solutions for complex problems. So once again, Scrum is a framework. It's not a specific process with steps that must be followed. It's not a methodology that tells you how to do things. It's a framework. It provides a description on how teams and groups within a company can work together to get things done. Questions, comments, thoughts? All right, moving on.
Hi, Felix. Just quick question.
Yes,
Maybe
please.
maybe it's later or not right now. What is day-to-day Scrum Master look like?
Aha, yes, we are going to go into that a little bit more, definitely.
Sure.
I have a slide on that later in the deck. In fact, I'd like to get some thoughts from everybody on the call, what they think Scrum Master does on a day-to-day basis. Let's talk about, the three main ideas, the three pillars of Scrum. Scrum is based on transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Now let's talk about transparency. It's about open and unobstructed communication. Clear and obsolete, completely open information sharing across all project stakeholders. Transparency is the core of trust and collaboration. If teams are supposed to work together and one of them doesn't know what the other one is doing, things are not going to go so well. We are moving really fast. Teams really need to know what's going on with the other parts of the project that they're all working on. If that transparency and clearness in communication is not there, then that's a recipe for a disaster. What is inspection? Well, it's about frequently checking whether what you're doing works. Teams can identify things that are not really working for them, suggest improvements, and overall maintain approach throughout the different iterations towards project success. And these inspections are needed on these checks, verifications, or assessments are needed on a regular basis. So teams can can determine whether what they have been doing works, or perhaps some things need to change. Maybe the amount of work that the teams are being asked to do is too big, and we need to change our timelines. Or maybe the other way around, the team estimated that there's going to be a 2 weeks worth of work. In reality, all the work was completed in 1.5 weeks, and the teams need to improve their estimation to make sure that it reflects more closely the actual time being spent in development. Or perhaps some other changes to the process are needed. And then the third pillar, adaptation. Once we deliver something, we check it, and we adapt our strategy, our approach, to ensure that, if things went well, if what we delivered matches what the customer wants, great, let's continue doing the same thing. But if something doesn't line up, well, what do we need to do to make things better the next time? Based on the inspections and verifications that happen during the process, based on the feedback from the stakeholders and the customers, teams quickly adjust and learn from their experiences to make sure things work better the next time. Any questions on this? All right. Then the three pillars of Scrum, they're really supported by the 5 main Scrum values. Let's start with courage. Scrum team members, they need courage to do the right thing and face tough problems. For example, they need to explore a new type of coding for a new feature on their product, like a team that has never worked with AI, for example, and the stakeholders want to introduce an AI-based feature to their product, well, everybody needs to learn how to do that. And courage is needed to not be afraid to start work and start learning on something that you have no idea about before. Courage is also needed to share information and talk to the people that you disagree with. If there are team members that don't get along, it's not something that can be swept under a rug in a Scrum process, in a Scrum framework. Everybody is collaborating and working together. And if there are some bad feelings or disagreements, they need to be resolved. Otherwise, these people will not be able to deliver work together successfully. And it also takes courage to, talk about your feelings and to work with your opposite to resolve any problems that exist. Now, focus, that's definitely a big Scrum value. The Scrum team focuses on the work of the sprint and its goals. So, and that focus can be on creating value, what's currently most important, and then just getting things completed and done. Commitment, each Scrum team member commits to trying to achieve team goals to their best ability and to support each other in the process. It's a commitment to deliver value, to deliver quality, and to working together towards the sprint and product goals. And working together is really impossible without respect. It's necessary for Scrum team members to respect each other as skilled professionals. Everybody may be coming from a different background, from a different set of knowledge. There may be some disagreements, but it doesn't mean that one person is stupider than the other person. There needs to be a respect from everybody's point of view. And even if there are disagreements, instead of name calling, the teams should try to resolve them in a respectful and peaceful manner. And then openness, as I mentioned, the Scrum team and its stakeholders, they need to agree to be open about all of the work and the challenges when that they may encounter when they are working. The Scrum team needs to be open about any challenges they face, and they should share feedback and learn from each other, as well as the stakeholders, to make sure that the next sprint, the next iteration, things are going to get better. Now, going back to the exam questions, one popular group of questions is there are a lot of questions that are based on these Scrum values or on some of the Scrum pillars from the last slide, such as transparency. And overall, Scrum is not about following every single type of ceremony or sticking to all the rules. It's about enabling transparency, visibility, and quick learning and improvement. And going back to the exam questions, the exam will often test whether you understand the reasoning of why Scrum is around, why are things happening the way they're happening in Scrum, why the recommendations are the way they are. It's not just the mechanics of the framework, but why it exists and why the specific suggestions have been put in place. Any questions? Any comments?
Just one question.
Yes.
What do you do when the stakeholder interrupt the team, or what do you do to address multitasking across multiple teams?
Well, that's one of the jobs of the Scrum Master. And like I said, I'm going to go more into the daily tasks later, but Scrum Master, and I'm going to go to the next slide, which talks about the Scrum roles, but a Scrum Master kind of makes sure that the team can do their work without any interruptions. It's part of their role. And explaining to a product owner or to an outside stakeholder that, things cannot be done now because the team is already heavily involved into the work that's already planned out for the current sprint. But perhaps, in the next sprint, we can pivot quickly to this new work or new direction that we need to take and adjust then. It's something that Scrum Master is responsible for. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Yeah, but let's talk about Scrum roles overall. A Scrum team consists of 3 groups of people. There is the development team. These are the folks who do the actual work on the project. There may be a designer involved as well, definitely testing. Then there is the product owner. This is somebody who represents the voice of the stakeholder and the customer, and maintains the backlog for the team and works with the team to understand what kind of stories based on their priority and size can be put into the current sprint and the sprint after that, making sure that the team produces value. And then there is the Scrum Master. And Scrum Master really tries to make sure that the teams are able to deliver the work quickly, successfully, and in the best way possible. So product owner makes sure that the team builds the right thing. The team makes sure that they build the thing correctly. And Scrum Master makes sure that it's done in the best way possible, that it's built fast. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts?
I think in the last introduction for PM classes, I was asking what actually Scrum Masters do. What is the difference between project management? So I think it clears it up for me.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Isaac. Glad that it sorted it out for you. Yeah, so then there are also people who can be involved in the development process outside the team, such as the voice of the customers themselves or the stakeholders. But the interactions with those groups are usually going through the product owner and the Scrum Master. The idea is to keep the team outside of these kinds of interactions to make sure that they're not bothered and are able to do their work in peace. Alisa, I see you have a question.
Yeah, you mentioned that the Scrum Master makes sure that that they make sure that the team does the good product or the good, there's a good result. How do they make sure that it's a good product? Do they
Well,
communicate a lot, or what does that involve?
Yes, definitely. Scrum Master is a position where a lot of communication happens, but I was about to just go into that, into the specifically what is Scrum Master responsible for and how they get their tasks completed. How do they make sure that the development teams complete their work in the best way possible.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that. What are the responsibilities of a Scrum Master? Now, Scrum Master does not manage people. The product manager or product owner, they will have their own manager from the product side. The development team will have a management from the development side that is responsible for managing them. Scrum Master does not assign tasks or user stories. That is determined by the team themselves. The product owner and the team determine the work that's going to be completed in the upcoming sprint, and then the team organizes themselves and assigns tasks among themselves. It's also not Scrum Master's responsibility to track individual performance. There are managers for both the product manager and product owner and the development team. They're the ones responsible for this, for the performance aspect of it. Scrum Master does not create reports based on, how well all the developers within the team are utilized. In the last sprint, have all of them been used to their fullest? No, that's something that's going back to the development team manager or the project manager. That's their responsibility. And Scrum Master does not own commitments. Whether it's a commitment for the product owner that, a certain amount of work will be completed in Q1, or, the team commitments, when a team commits to completing, 5 stories within a sprint, but they actually only complete 4, it's something that the team is responsible for and not really the Scrum Master. So with so many different things out of the way, what is it that Scrum Master actually does? Well, this is a position that is also known as a servant leader position. The Scrum Master serves the team and the product manager, product owner. They coach the team on Scrum theory and practice. It could be a single team, or it could be on the organization level on how to adopt Scrum within the organization. They serve the product owner. They make sure that the product owner is enabled to manage the backlog well, to make sure that there are enough stories in the backlog, that the team has enough to work on for upcoming sprints. Scrum Master serves the developers by allowing them a good way to solve any differences that are encountered, or any questions or differences with the product owner. Scrum Master makes sure that the Scrum events are going smoothly and that they make sense considering the company and the industry process. Scrum Master is responsible to help the team and the product owner to remove any problems that are encountered, whether it's a resource problem or perhaps stakeholders want to have an immediate change. Scrum Master will work with the product owner or with the development team manager to try to resolve the problems and make sure that the team can continue their work without any issues. Ultimately, Scrum Master is responsible to make sure that the Scrum process is understood and enacted in the best way possible. Now, one may think that the role of a Scrum Master is a lot like a project manager. While there are some similarities, they're not the same. The Scrum Master owns the process, or the Scrum, or the agile approach to development. The project manager owns the project plan and the delivery. When it comes to planning, Scrum Master makes it easier for the planning process to happen, but it's actually the team and the product owner that create the plan. A project manager, on the other hand, will create and maintain the project plan. The scope is owned by the product owner. Scrum Master just coaches to make sure if there are any hidden questions, those are answered, and that there is a clear understanding between the product owner and the team on what to deliver. A project manager actually manages and owns the project scope. Now, when it comes to team management, once again, Scrum Master coaches and helps teams develop self-management. But the project manager actually manages team assignments and workload. When it comes to decision making, Scrum Master does not make the decisions. Once again, it belongs to the product owner and the team. But Scrum Master provides necessarily guides to make sure that the process goes through smoothly and facilitates as much as possible with the process itself. And it's up to the project manager to make decisions or escalate any problems that may occur. Risk management. Once again, Scrum Master does not really own the risk, but they will work with the team to make sure that the early inspection and adaptation happens often. The team can learn from the customer feedback, from their own feedback and their own mistakes or things that went great previously. Well, the project manager actually manages risks and creates mitigation plans, what to do if things go wrong. Reporting. Well, Scrum Master is not responsible for reporting, but Scrum Master will once again encourage everybody participating in the process to be transparent about what's going on. And the Scrum Master will help to spread the information to everybody involved. And ultimately, what's Scrum Master responsible for? Scrum Master is accountable for the effectiveness of the Scrum team. Now, going back to the project manager, project managers provide formal status reports, and they're the ones accountable for the project delivery. A Scrum Master doesn't really have any formal authority over people or product decisions. They lead through influence, they provide suggestions, they provide ideas, but they don't really command. And they're not the ones who assign tasks or judge performance. Project managers, they do have authority within the organization. They assign tasks, they approve work, they will take a look at the team performance or perhaps even individual performance, and they will align people with deadlines and budgets. So going back to the exam, it's some of the tricks and the questions that exist on the exam. Anytime a question suggests that the Scrum Master is a project manager, that's a wrong answer. Don't fall for that one. Now, can a Scrum Master and a project manager exist together in the same company on the same project? Yeah, it's entirely possible. But the Scrum Master, once again, will focus on the Scrum framework and helping teams communicate and improve their delivery. And the project manager will handle broader project coordination outside of the Scrum team. Any questions? Any thoughts on this? All right.
I just have a quick
Yes,
question.
Alla, please.
Just to understand, who manages Scrum Master? Is he independent from the team and the overall management, or he more like manager but by himself? Just to understand.
Well, so a Scrum Master structurally in a company is either part of the program management, same as a project manager, or could be part of the product group. But they kind of stand out on their own. They're quite different from product and somewhat different from the project manager as well. And they will have their own hierarchy, although it's possible for a Scrum Master to report to the same person as a product manager or a project manager, but usually in larger companies, they will have their own reporting hierarchy.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. So let's do a quick team activity. Based on what you've learned about a Scrum Master, what do you think a Scrum Master does on a day-to-day basis? It's kind of hard to answer now, huh? Maria, go ahead, please.
I can say something. I mean,
Oh, Isaac, go ahead.
I can guess. I mean,
Please.
from what we talked. So basically, Scrum Master, I feel like it is like a glue. So as I guess I talked about my previous work experience.
Mhm.
So project managers sometimes demand something, and we used to have like a different teams, and they have different chats. So I was the one actually kind of bringing news from project manager to the developers, because they don't talk to each other kind of directly all the time. They have so like I feel like it's like a glue position. Like again, you'll be serving to the development team, right? For them to just communicate better with project managers or whatever. That's what's my understanding of
That's a
Scrum
good
Master.
description. Yeah, in many ways, a Scrum Master is a bit like a guru, a proselytizer of Scrum. They're all about the processes. They're all about making sure that the teams learn from the work that they did before, and use that knowledge to get better and better and better. And yeah, they are about making sure that the communication is open and happens regularly, and that are no surprises.
Do they facilitate meetings and stuff between project managers and the development teams too?
Well, they definitely do facilitate some of the meetings.
Hmm.
Does anybody have any other thoughts, ideas they'd like to share? All right, well, let's move forward. I know, I've mentioned so many things that a Scrum Master is not, and there are different responsibilities that others have. So what is it that the Scrum Master does at the end of the day? What do they do regularly? Well, Scrum Master facilitates Scrum ceremonies, such as daily stand-ups, daily Scrums. The Scrum Master makes sure that those run smoothly, that any questions that may exist are actually asked, if it's impossible to resolve or answer those questions right away, then a Scrum Master may note down the responsible person for getting that answer, and will continue to bring it up to make sure that it doesn't get lost. A Scrum Master will help dealing with the blockers. My team cannot do the work because team X, some other team that exists in the company, did not complete the specific tasks that we were waiting for them to complete. Or I'm trying to integrate with this data provider, and I have some questions and they're not responding to me. I cannot move forward until I get my answers. It's up to the Scrum Master to make sure that the right parties are involved to get the answers that are needed to get things moving again. Scrum Master coaches the team on a regular basis. They make sure that the team understands the concept behind Scrum, help them make sure that the communication happens regularly and often, that the estimation process gets better over time, and so on. Now, what else? A Scrum Master will work with the product owner to make sure that the product owner does their job, that they manage the backlog, making sure there are enough stories there, making sure they present these stories to the teams ahead of time so they can understand how to approach them, how to do the work, and they groom the stories with the team so that they take the team feedback and make adjustments to those stories as needed. Just making sure that the POs stay on top of the tasks that they have. Overall, a Scrum Master ensures that the team follows Scrum process. That we don't wait and start testing, for example, until all development work in a particular sprint is finished. No, as soon as a single story is completed, well, let's start testing that one, while developers may be working on something else still. And then, as I mentioned, any distractions, anything that happens outside of the teamwork, the idea is that Scrum Master helps protect the team from that. They don't need to hear the noise. They need to be able to focus on their work and not worry about something surprising them all of a sudden. And then, just overall improve team processes. Like, as I mentioned, the estimation, sprint completion, delivery percentages, just making sure the team does the best they can. So a Scrum Master does all this, but they're not the team secretary. It's not up to them to take notes for the daily scrums. It's really up to the PO and the team lead. But a Scrum Master ensures that the communications of those daily scrums happen correctly. Scrum Master is not the boss. Scrum Master does not create the sprint backlog. Scrum Master does not extend the sprint. And Scrum Master cannot cancel a sprint. That's up to the product owner. So these are some of the common traps that exist on the exam as well. It's not Scrum Master responsibility to take notes. And you just need to make sure that you've noted that all down as you prepare for the test. Now, Any questions, any comments, any thoughts on what we've discussed today altogether, or any questions about the class in general? All right. Well, as I said, today is an introductory session, so it's going to be somewhat short. I went over the topics that I'd like to cover in the class. I went over the basic idea of what the software development lifecycle is like, differences between waterfall and agile, how Scrum is important, and how Scrum works overall on a high level. We are definitely going to be doing much deeper dives into everything about the Scrum process, the roles of every member of the team, whether it's product owner, the actual team, or the Scrum Master, of course, with the focus being mostly on the Scrum Master. And we're going to go over the Scrum ceremonies, Scrum artifacts, and everything else that gets involved in the Scrum process, and make sure you guys are ready for the test. If nobody has any further questions, then I'd like to present some homework that I would like you guys to do as a prep for the next class. So please, 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 please read the Scrum guide. As I mentioned in the beginning, it's a document that's published by scrum.org, and the fathers of Scrum were the ones who came up with it first and foremost. And just based on what you read, please bring a question to the next class that we can talk about. I see a question from Maria. Is the certificate? No, we prepare you for the test, but you need to take the test directly with scrum.org, and you need to pay the test fee to them directly. Any other questions? Any comments? Any thoughts? Well, if there are no further questions, then thank you everybody for attending today's sessions. I really, really appreciate you all being here, and I hope to see you all in the further class sessions. For any questions regarding payment or how to sign up, please contact Irina, our administrator. You can reach out to her either on the Slack channel for this class, or I'm going to type in an email address into the chat right now. You can reach her at this email as well. Thank you so much, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.